We've gathered back around the proverbial table. You like that? With Bob Garner, Mr. Barbecue in North Carolina, the foodie of our state. Bob Garner and the fabulous books, Foods That Make You Say. How are you, buddy?
It's a long and then a short for exclamation on the end. There you go. I'm fine. How are you?
It's great to see you again. We haven't
Thank you so much.
seen you in a couple of weeks, and it's nice to have you back here in the studio. I do want to make mention about a big deal coming up. Dinner with Bob Garner in October, on Saturday, October 17th. And the dinner will feature Foods That Make You Say. I can
a whole bunch of them.
This sounds exciting. Now go to bobgarnerenterprises.com or phone to make your reservation. 1-800-984-9090.
And by the way, they can call that number anytime. It has they can leave a message. It'll have operators. Anytime, 24/7, they can call that number.
Bob, I want to start today with collard greens. I love me some collard greens, Bob.
Most Southerners do. You know, collards are one of those foods that's not necessarily a North Carolina dish, except that we love our collard greens, and not only that, have our own special heirloom variety that grows very well in eastern North Carolina, down in the area of Ayden and Greenville and Pitt County. They have a big collard festival down there, basically to celebrate their own heirloom variety of collards. And they're just
they eat those
marvelous.
Things for breakfast.
Oh, man.
Oh, they eat those things for breakfast. It's crazy.
There's a restaurateur in Ayden's, the proprietors of Bum's Restaurant, that will not serve a collard green that is not grown in their own collard patch at their own home. They bring the collards in every day from their own garden and cook them, and I think they're the finest collard greens on the planet. But there are a lot of good collard greens around.
They're big and leafy, if I'm not mistaken, Bob, at the times I've eaten them, if I recall correctly. And because a lot of places seem like they want to chop them up now.
Yeah, really some people serve them. For example, at the Pit, we serve them virtually unchopped. But at Bum's, actually, they put them through a chopper.
Okay.
So they're more minced.
Yeah.
But you can do it either way.
See, I like the big leafy from time to time.
Yeah, a lot of people do. They like to cut them up, and so it just depends on what you like. So we have basically two varieties. The real dark green Georgia collards is normally what you find displayed in the grocery store, and those are good. They're generally considered best after the frost when they cook more quickly, and they're more tender and more sweet. The yellow cabbage collards is the variety. It's a lighter green, sort of a yellowish green variety. They tend to head up like a cabbage a little bit more, which is why they're called cabbage collards. And they're not really, the seeds aren't sold commercially. So the people who grow these varieties pass the seeds down from generation to generation. They've been doing it for over 100 years. And there are just one or two places where you can actually even buy the plants or the seeds. But you can find those collard greens in restaurants in the area. Pitt County, Edgecombe County. Has to do with the soil and the mineral content and the nutrients and all that. But yellow cabbage collards, that's what's all the hoo-ha and the fuss is about in that part of eastern North Carolina about collards. But not very far away from that, my grandparents always grew just regular Georgia collards. And they're similar in the way you cook. You just cook those a little bit longer. They're darker green, whereas the others are a little bit lighter in color and sweeter and more tender.
Bob Garner. You know Bob from UNC TV, Bob Garner Enterprises, and the big dinner that Bob's got coming up in October. Go to bobgarnerenterprises.com for that. Collards go best with what?
They go best with some kind of smoked pork. I've used pigtails, I've used pig's feet, I've used side meat, I've used ham hocks. Little red pepper certainly doesn't hurt. So there's usually some kind of combination of several different kinds of ham or ham products. Some people use a smoked ham. Some people use a sweeter type ham.
Now you're talking about cooking it with that.
Yeah,
in the pot.
And to eat them, I love them with sweet potatoes. I love them with with little cornmeal dumplings.
You're killing me here, Bob. You're killing me.
I'm working on it. Nothing could be any more fun than coming in here and making you hungry.
Can you over salt? I mean, there's some people that like to cook them with some salt when they're making them, and some people does that.
Yeah, you want to be careful with that, but they take quite a bit of salt. Most of the salt though will come from the meat that forms the seasoning.
Right.
Basically, what you do is you put your meat in a pot and make a broth, and let that broth cook for a while. Then put the collards into the pork broth.
Yeah.
But make the broth first, and but some people, I mean, they're grown all over the world. Some people season them with olive oil. Some people, use them to make little roll-ups and do curries and all kinds of things. But I'm talking about the southern style collards.
The common complaint is that they stink when you cook them. But that's the price of doing business, is it not?
Well, it sort of is. Yeah, that's a childhood memory of whenever I visited my grandparents in Newport, North Carolina as a kid growing up. We were moving around with the military, but I'd walk into my grandmother's house, always smelled like collards cooking, because they always cooked collards when we came, because that was the big deal. And I quickly, most kids don't like that scent, that aroma.
Yeah.
Now I like it, and most kids don't.
It has
like
a nostalgia to it. It really does. When you're preparing them at home, and we kind of go back to that chopped versus the leafiness, and kind of letting it boil down to where you could cut it yourself more easily. Is there a wrong way, if you are chopping it at home yourself, that might seem like a bit of a dumb question, but I know.
No, that's a good question. Actually, you sort of want to avoid the big, thick stems if you can.
Yeah.
So what most people do is fold the collard leaf over and use a really sharp knife to cut on either side of the stem, and just throw the stem away. You get a little bit of the fine stem, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Then you have these half leaves of collards, and you can lay them flat and get 10 or 12 of them, then roll them up in a roll, and then just slice them across, and you get kind of shredded collards, and that's a great way to do it, and a very efficient way to do it.
Bob Garner, BobGarnerEnterprises.com. Bob, anything we've not mentioned with the world of collards that we need to cover before we say goodbye?
Just that if you live in this area and you don't take advantage of eating particularly yellow cabbage collards, they're just one of the best foods on the entire planet. They're incredibly healthy for you. They're a cousin of kale, so they're really good for you, except for the fat, and we just live with that. And you don't have to have that in there, but you
I like
sort
how
of
you glossed over that.
You sort of do. No. And they're a very healthy vegetable, so eat mo collards.
Do you like putting vinegar? I know some people put a little vinegar on them. Is that, or do you?
I don't personally, but I like mine a little bit on the sweet side. So
okay. What is the vinegar takes away that?
Yeah, that's really something that is more suited to turnip greens, which can have a little bitter overtaste in that, but not so much for collards. But some people like it.
This is why we have you in here, to educate me on the difference.
If you like vinegar at the restaurant, we always offer vinegar if people would like it.
It is great to see Bob Garner here in studio. Bob, thanks.
Thank you.